No need to go far and wide. Let Hometown provide. Hometown Trophies and Embroidery in Lena can help turn your ideas into reality. From awards, engraving, and gifts to custom apparel and business accessories, they have you covered. Visit them today or give them a call at 815-369-9185. That's Hometown Trophies Embroidery. Let your vision become their masterpiece.
Welcome to NUIC All Access, joined by Jay Doyle. I am your host, Kyle Kampmeyer. Today we feature a head coach who has guided Pecatonica to a regional title in his first season, and the school's all-time leading scorer who is headed to Wright State in the fall. Jay, introduce our guest to us today.
All right, today's guests are Daniel Rosenstiel and Elaina Reger, and here's a look what they've accomplished. First, Elaina. She is the all-time leader scorer in Peck history, sitting right now at 1,852 points. All-time leading rebounder in Peck history, sitting currently at 735. Three-time NUIC North unanimous first-team all-conference. NUIC North MVP in her sophomore year. IBCA All-State Special Mention her freshman and sophomore year. IBCA All-State third team as a junior. AP second team All-State junior year. NUIC North Honorable Mention All-Conference Volleyball player sophomore year. Junior year, NUIC North second team all-conference. Senior year, NUIC North first team all-conference, unanimous in volleyball. The all-time leader in kills and blocks at Pecatonica. And then helped Pecatonica girls basketball with 2 of their 3 regional titles in school history, and is now committed to Division I Wright State University. That's a long list.
That is.
Now, Daniel, for you. All right.
I don't think I can top that.
Two-time regional champion in basketball at 2015 and 2016 at Winnebago. Big Northern All-Conference in basketball in 2016. Played 2 years at Rockford University in 2017 and 18. Coached on the boys basketball staff with Coach Heisler at Peck in 2018 to 2022. Boys regional champion in 22-23, NUIC North Conference. 7 years coaching at Peck, and you took over the girls program in the spring of 22, correct? Current record now sits at 61 and 21.
64 and 21.
64, come on, Kyle. 64 and 21 as the head coach at Peck. Regional champion, 22 and 23. Most wins in a season in the 23-24 season at 25. All right. I got that out. Now your question, Kyle.
All right. Well, first off, welcome to the show, guys. It's great to have you guys on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Elaina, we're going to start with you. At what age did you begin playing basketball, and how did the interest of playing basketball start to become something that you like to do?
Yeah, so I started when I was in like second grade. We had like a Littles League where Peck kids would play against other Peck kids. We would have wristbands to show who each other were guarding. So, I mean, just to show how little we were. The interest came about really when I really started becoming interested was when I watched my sister play for Northwest League. And I saw her competing, and just the love for the sport just grew then, and I wanted to try and play with my own team.
And now when you started doing that with Peck on Peck, at what age did you start doing travel AAU basketball?
Yeah, so 5th grade, I was with Wildcats for, I think, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and then I kind of wanted to get into playing higher competition, so we went to the Lakers my 8th grade summer, and I've been with them. I was with them since my 8th grade to my junior year.
Gotcha. Now here's one of the facts that a lot of people don't know about Elaina Reger that your dad shared with us. You played football when you were younger.
Yes.
How did that go? What position? And how many years did you do that?
Yeah, so I played for 2 years. I played 4th grade and 5th grade, and the 4th grade I played with my cousin. He's basically the reason why I wanted to play. I have a story, actually. My cousin, we were in the backyard at Easter, actually, and I had kind of wanted to play, and my mom did not want me to play. And my uncle would like hand off the ball to us and we would like tackle each other. And so my aunt was like, Elaina, if you can tackle Ethan and then score a touchdown the next play, like you can play. Like if it's okay with your mom, whatever.
You lay
Um
his ass out?
yeah, I was so I wanted to play so bad and I laid him out and then I scored a touchdown. I juked him out and yeah, it was fun.
Any celebration after that, and how did he feel?
He was definitely defeated. He hates
Still
losing.
scarred?
Yeah, I was happy, but he was not.
So talking to your dad yesterday at the MLK tournament, he talked about you getting hit hard for the first time where some kid knocked you out of bounds
Mhm.
and you started to cry, but then eventually you choked it up and you're like you were getting asked if you could get back in the game and you're like, yeah, I guess. But you went back out there and you continued to play.
Yeah.
And really, he credits that a lot to your toughness currently on how you work on the basketball floor as well.
Yeah, I would say it definitely has helped me. Like mentally, like getting tougher. I mean, a lot of girls don't play football, so just having that like behind me and just having that experience, I don't know, it's kind of helped me, and it was super fun scoring a bunch of touchdowns and playing defensive end. So
Did
yeah,
you ever talk trash any of the high school boys this year or last year when they had success? Like,
no,
I used to play football type stuff back when I played type thing?
no, not really. I'm not really a trash talker, but no, they're good. I'll give them the credit for that. They got it.
So, Dan, you played basketball and baseball in high school. What did you find to be helpful being a multi sport athlete for yourself growing up?
Yeah, so I played basketball and baseball at Winnebago. So it's kind of funny. I think both sports really introduced me to a lot of people. And I think when you play multiple sports, you obviously get relationships with a lot of people involved. So a lot of people don't know this, but baseball was my better sport, my more natural sport. I just had to work a lot harder in basketball. So that's kind of where, a lot of my time went. And I think what I learned the most from it is there's different successes and failures that come in different sports, and you're in different situations, and it just kind of teaches you about life. I think baseball, there's obviously strategy in basketball, but baseball, I'm very analytical and like where do I need to go with the ball here? What's going to happen if I'm hit here? How many outs are there? Things like that. Basketball, it's more about like how can I help everybody on the court as a coach, and that's how I was as a player. Obviously, I'm a little guy, so I was a point guard. So I think that was something that playing both sports definitely helped me in the coaching realm, learning the strategy and how to implement a team. And then I think the other thing that it did is, like I said, just the relationships. I think that's the biggest thing about sports is it teaches you life lessons and it puts really good people in your life, and it takes you a long way. So.
What position baseball?
So I kind of, when I was younger, I played shortstop, second, and center. I always hated this because I loved center field. That was probably my best position in the sense of like
You look like
ability.
a center fielder.
Yeah, that was probably my best just because I could track the baseball really well. But I didn't have the arm strength or really the speed because I was kind of little. So you had bigger, faster kids that could cover more ground. So I ended up playing a lot of second base, and then if we had a shortstop that I was really good friends with all throughout high school, when he would pitch, I'd move to short, but mostly second base for the varsity level.
Elaina, so you have played multiple sports besides your football career. You played volleyball and basketball, and that's what I love seeing about a lot of the girls we talked to. We talked to, Tessa Janicki. We've talked to other girls who have now made it on that, even Sophie Bruner, who have made it where you're going to that Division I level. And I think there's that misconception of, well, they worked so hard in that sport and yada yada yada. And not that you didn't, but it's like you also found time to do your thing on the volleyball court, and you were all conference volleyball player multiple years. You lead them in the spikes and everything, like the kills, like however they
Kills.
they call it in volleyball. But I always find it to root for the girls or boys like you that find time to help out in the other sports, because you're a gifted athlete. You could worry about yourself, but it shows that you worry about everything. What did you find the best part about being a multi-sport athlete, and how did you find the time to juggle everything?
Yeah, so I definitely had like benefits physically and mentally. Like physically, I would be able to stay in shape with volleyball. Like we would lift a lot and we would run a lot. And then for the mental side, I think that it's helped me as a competitor, just having different pressure situations and learning my way through them. But along with my teammates, like the girls who play volleyball, that play basketball, like chemistry that we have has also grown. So I think that's also a big thing with like just having success.
So your dad was talking about, speaking of the commitment and being a volleyball player, when you went and moved from the Wildcats to the Wisconsin Lakers, that was a commitment of almost 6 hours at a time because you were driving 2 hours to Milwaukee, would have a practice for 2 hours, and then a 2 hour drive back. How did you balance all that out as well?
Yeah, so it was definitely hard on my mental sometimes. I mean, I loved doing it. I loved the people there. But definitely the commitment level had to be high, but I knew what I wanted and I knew if I worked for something that it's probably gonna like um work out for me and pay off. So just pushing through that and just working really hard. That's I don't know. Yeah.
No, I get to where you're coming from. I think the thing that you can walk away from in that journey from, your junior high to high school is you put everything in place to give yourself the best position to
Mhm.
whatever was going to happen, right? Whether it be a D1 offer, D2 offer,
Right.
you put yourself in position to put yourself in that position. There's no regrets on if I would have done this, if I would have done that. And you put the commitment in. You did multiple things. You made the commitment to the Lakers and made the practices and put yourself out there and you got what you wanted. And it don't always work out for everybody. And I think that's where sometimes it's like maybe they feel like
Yeah.
I failed something, but it's like not everybody gets an opportunity like what you get. And you put yourself out there and some don't. And whether it's D2, D3, D1, you did the best you possibly could to make that happen in your 4 years of high school.
So over the years, I've seen you in the weight room with your dad getting into the fitness center in Pecatonica. And, I even talked with Jason about you getting the extra work in, going into the gym, putting up shots as early as fourth grade. How vital has the weight room been for you and your growth? Do you work out during the season? And how has the commitment to putting in that extra work helped you throughout your career?
Yeah, so for me, I love being in the weight room. My dad did start me pretty early, so one of my goals throughout the years was to squat 300 pounds, and I accomplished that last year, which I thought was cool.
That's awesome.
But as being in the weight room and doing those workouts, even when I didn't want to, really helped me growing like stronger and like quicker on the court. But with the Lakers program, I knew that all the girls were strength training and that helped me push when I didn't want to, but it also helped me on the court playing against those 3, 4, 5-star athletes and competing with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was just thinking, and I know this is off cuff. I was just wondering, can you out squat your dad?
No.
Well, I will take her
Not
anytime.
not when he was
100%.
like when he was in his prime, absolutely not. But
He's more like
maybe
an upper
next one.
body guy. You
His
had
knees-
the squat going. Maybe you can get him on the squat, but I
Maybe.
guarantee he can probably get you on the bench. I guarantee that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. His knees are a little weak, so
Yeah,
I think
we won't tell him that. We won't tell him that. But
No,
my money's on you on the squat.
thanks.
So Dan, you played basketball at Rockford University. What did you take away from that experience, and how do you introduce that to your philosophy and principles now as a head coach?
Yeah, so I did play basketball there at RU. Coach Andrew Weber, he was a Boylan guy. He gave me a shot, and I'm always thankful for that. I think one of the biggest things, that was one of the goals. I was, like I said, I'm a little guy, so I really had to work for it, and I always put in so much extra time. So even just to get that opportunity is something I'm always thankful for. I think the biggest thing that college showed me is you're obviously, every college team is different. You're preparing. You usually have like 1 to 2 days between every game. And I think the biggest thing it taught me is there's a difference between scheme and principles. I think sometimes in high school, coaches and teams kind of just say like, this is what we do, and that's kind of it. Like that's what they do. To me, it's like, and this is a credit to our staff. We kind of look at every single game individually. Like, what is it that we need to do from an X's and O's standpoint to win that game? Whereas like our principles are like, this is who we are. So I always say like, scheme is what we do, and then principles are who we are. And I think our whole entire staff and program has kind of embodied that and kind of bought into that. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned from college. And I would say the other part is the relationship piece. I kind of got to see, you're not going on the road with the coaches to recruit, but you're seeing all the different backgrounds of your teammates and like where they're from. Because obviously it's all over the world in the United States where people are recruiting. And I think that translates to how do you relate to people as a coach? Because I saw that from my college coach. So I kind of try to implement that of relating to each kid on our team in our program to the best of my ability and what fits them. Not everybody's in the same box. So I would say those two are the biggest things.
Now, here's my question as a basketball guy. Are you a righty or a lefty?
I'm a righty.
Righty? I know your dad has that smooth lefty shot.
Yeah. So my brother, so it's always funny. My dad swings a golf club righty and he shot left-handed. And then my younger brother, Derek, and I are both, everything's right-handed. So I don't know where he got messed up along the way with that, but I guess Derek and I didn't get the memo, but I always tell him we're way better scorers and shooters than he was. So
what's Becky? Is she a righty?
He would say that again. I'm sorry.
What's Becky? Is she a righty?
My mom's a righty. Yeah,
cool.
My mom's a righty.
So you got all your athletic ability from your mom then.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep. Mom would probably agree with that.
Oh yeah, we got the toughness too. Mom's tough, so you got that too.
So Dan, how do you manage off-season workouts, and is the weight room part of your off-season and in-season training as a program?
Yeah, so the weight room has been a big part here at the school. I think I give a lot of credit to Tyler Hoffman. He kind of started that whole initiative with the football program, back when he first took over. And then on the girls' side, we're really, really fortunate. So we have Skylar Paulson, who is a really tremendous athlete at Eastland, and Coach Rager. They both kind of instilled it. So I like to give credit to Coach Rager. He started it, I would say, with the girls. Like he kind of started it with like when I would say probably 7th, 8th grade, kind of started getting the volleyball program to lift, and then the basketball program, obviously. And then once Coach Paulson said yes and joined our staff, my first year, he kind of took over that part, and he does a lot of the high school football stuff too. So it kind of has just flowed. So in the off season, what we do is we usually give them, obviously after the season's such a long regular season, we wait till after spring break, and then we come back and we do 3-day-a-week lifting sessions. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we go into like shot club, open gym, things like that. And then that goes all the way through the summer. And then in season, I don't think all the girls love it, but I do think it creates some stability. We lift at least, I would say, twice a week. The only time it would change would be like tournament week. Sometimes, you get cut short. Maybe it's once, or maybe you come back the next week and make up for it. But I think it's a really good stability thing for us. And, I'm a firm believer in it. And I know our staff, I'm really, really fortunate. Coach Paulson does a lot there and Coach Rager do. And it's one thing that I don't have to, on my plate that I don't have to worry about. So it's a huge advantage for us, I think. So,
Elaina, just a question to circle back around with volleyball. You lead Peck with all-time kills, all-time blocks. Did you get any interest for volleyball? Were there any offers, or sometimes if your heart is in basketball, you can kind of say, I'm kind of leaning this way. But was there anybody that reached out to you on the volleyball side?
No, I never got any offers. I think with basketball and volleyball, I never played club volleyball, so
Right.
I didn't really get any like publicity, or like I didn't play with like a good team to get in front of those coaches. Like I think it's the same with basketball. You have to be a part of those good teams to get recognized and get that interest. But for me, volleyball was just a sport I could just play and have fun with my girls, and like no pressure really. It was just a fun sport for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I like that. Dan, you won a regional title your first season at the Helm Guide in Pecatonica in the 2022-23 season. You beat Aquin, and then you lost to a tough Galena team in the sectional semifinals. Last season, you guys were a top seed, had the first round bye. You lost in the regional semifinals as one of the favorites to a Lena Winslow team that you guys had beat 3 times in the regular season. What were your thoughts after that first season of that high of winning that regional title, and then last season being a favorite and coming up short? And did you do anything different in planning for this season?
Yeah, so obviously the first year to get the regional was really special. First year head coach, obviously it kind of showed me like, all right, like, I can do this. We can do this as a team. And it kind of kicked off the program in the right way. Not a lot of coaches get to do that. So we were very fortunate to get that. I think that year, what I was probably most proud of is I felt like we kind of achieved everything that we really could. Obviously we lost to Galena and they made it to state. So it's not like somebody beat you and then they just lost. And, so the team we lost to went to state. So I can't really argue with that. So I felt like we got the most out of our team that year, which I was really proud of. Last year, it was kind of one of those things. Unfortunately, we played Lena. I always joke with Dennis Hudlocker. I think we've played them like 10 times in 2 years because we always get them in the Oregon tournament. Then we play them in conference twice. So they had a really good game plan in that game. And unfortunately, looking back at it, I really wish I would have changed a couple things in the moment. So I felt like we probably could have switched a little more. We kind of just stuck with the matchups, and I wish I would have switched some people around. We kind of let Grace get going, and we didn't give her enough different looks. And then I also don't think I got enough of our secondary scores. So like obviously Elaina, Kiana, and Lauren were our main scorers that year. And I don't think I did a good enough job getting other kids opportunities in that game, or our top scorers enough open looks, which is more of a credit, to them, I think, as a team and their game plan for what they did to us. But I definitely learned things from both, positive and things to get better at. And I think going into this year, the thing I learned the most from last year, especially because we came up short, was the schedule. I don't think we played a bad schedule last year. I just felt like we were really backloaded. And what I mean by that is like all of our bigger games were kind of after Christmas. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like when you're going through it, that gives you a little bit less time to like kind of think about it and like stop. Cause it's like, okay, big game and then another big game and then another big game. And so you're always like kind of moving, which is great. But at the same time, like this year, I was like, how can we get it so that we're playing the best competition all season? So we kind of really worked this year to balance out the schedule, and I think that's been a big advantage to us. And then the other part I would say with that scheduling is we as a staff, we said let's play on the road as much as possible because in the playoffs, unless you're hosting, you're going to be on the road in a pretty tough environment. And even if you're hosting, you only get 2 games, right? So like it's only 2 of the hopefully 5 or 6 that you want to play in. So that was something I think as a staff we talked about and we pushed for this year was to play better teams. To not only balance at the end of the year, but to push us the entire season. So,
Yeah, I think the other part of that is I think people just don't realize how hard some sports I think maybe tend to be easy, but I think how everything is set up, winning a regional and winning a conference and getting to sectionals is hard.
yes.
And you can have a great team, and if you get on a cold spell at the wrong time,
Yep.
or if you just have an off night shooting and it happens,
Yep.
like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
one and done or 2 and done. Like I think so many people think, well, you won all these games and you beat them twice. It's like when regionals start, everything's different, right? Like everything is thrown out the window, and the pressure of if we lose this game, it's over. And I don't think people understand when you're dealing with 15 to 18-year-olds, that does come into play. And
Yeah.
you show up, you play hard, you tip your cap to the other team, and you move on. And that's how
Yeah.
it'll be this year for everybody too. It's coming up in a hurry.
Yeah, it is. I think another point to what you just said there, Jay, I think it's funny. We play so many games. Like we play
Yeah.
31 basketball games in high school, which is, if you think about it, college girls and boys play 40. Like that's the max. So we're already close to that at a high school level. And I think you made a good point. Like with the 31 games, it's like, okay, we lost, but you get to come back the next day. And like there's pressure and you want to win every game, but it's like, okay, we get to come back to practice the next day. Then as soon as that calendar flips in February, like, okay, this is it. Like it's a different type of pressure. It's a different type of preparing, like mentally for the kids, there's more pressure. So I think that's a good point on your part. Like it is something that changes. So
Yeah, it's just a battle of staying healthy, staying sharp, and getting ready at the right time. And
Yep.
everybody you can see getting hot or cold, or you gotta stay away from injuries too. And that's one of the big things you see area teams fighting, is injuries, and you just got to be healthy going into in February.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that, I've talked to Jay about. He's talked about how he tries to load up his schedule heavy. Obviously, you've done that. I get ridiculed at times because I put together a hard schedule last year. In fact, I mean, a lot of our non-conference games were against 3A and 4A schools, and I had people asking if we could schedule softer this year. So what did I do this year? I went out and scheduled more 3A and 4A schools just to make it tougher. But like you said, you want to be able to have those tough games early. Like we have a tough schedule coming up over spring break where we play 7 games in 6 days.
Yep.
And then we turn right back around and we're starting to enter into conference play. And now with the addition to Forest into the North Division, that obviously, especially in baseball, is going to make our division a lot tougher with
Yep.
us and Lena Winslow and Forreston and Pearl City all in that mix. And then even Dupec last year had a great run in conference play. They actually tied us for second place last year. So
Yep.
it's going to be very interesting. But then I even double back on that where even our cross-divisional games within the NUIC, I try to get us against the top teams that are in those divisions, like the Eastlands, the Warren Stocktons, the River Ridge Scales Mounds, Fulton, East Dubuque. Like I put those guys on our schedule as well because I know that when we get into that regional and sectional play, if we're fortunate enough to get past regionals, those are the guys we're going to be seeing. So it really helps you to put yourself to the test early in the season and then continue that throughout the course of the season because then I back end the schedule with a very tough perennial 2A team in Richmond Burton that we've been closing them out at the end of the year for the past 2 seasons. And again, we'll do that this season. I put on a state qualifier in Sterling Newman, who we lost to in our sectional championship game 2 seasons ago. I put them back onto our regular season schedule this year towards the end of the season. So it's really cool, like you said. You want to make sure you have that balance, but you want to make sure it's tough all the way around so you are prepared for those moments when the playoffs start to pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing for our team, especially, I think it's more of a testament to the kids because other teams want to play us. This year, especially like CSE, I mean, they've been top 5 in 2A. Like they wanted to play us, they said. Dixon obviously invited us down. So, I mean, it's a credit to our kids and how athletic and how good they are. And I think other teams see that and want to add us. So as a coach, it's like, why would you not give them that opportunity? Like these teams want to play you and you can only get better by playing the best competition. And I think our kids embrace that. So it's definitely a good thing and something we try to do here. So
touching base on that Central Southeastern game, like you said, that was a very tough game for you guys. Myself and Jay were in attendance for that game. I talked to Coach Rager after the game, and he said, man, we have not seen that kind of physicality all year or before. And I know that similar to like you guys have Tyler Hoffman and Skylar Paulson running your weight program. Their football coach and track coach is Brad Dixon, who runs their weight program. What did you find to be a big challenge for you in that game outside of just their overall size, physicality, and hustle?
Yeah, so as a coach, I felt like they really sped us up. And what I mean by that is like I think we obviously like people that have seen us play, like we play fast, but there's a difference between playing fast and playing fast and in control. And I thought that was what they did. They played fast, but they also played in control. And when you can do that, you can really overwhelm teams. And in that game, I felt like that's kind of what they did, especially early. Like they just kind of came out and got on one of those long runs. And obviously, like you said, the physicality and speed, like you could see it, like the girl sitting next to me, like usually when I walk in gyms, I'm kind of like, okay, like she's about as athletic and as strong as they come. And then to look across, and Elaina probably could touch on it too. Like they had some girls that were just as big and strong. So, and obviously we play some younger kids too. So I'm sure that was kind of an eye opener to them. Like, whoa, like these girls are really, really, put together, really athletic. So I think that was one. And then the other part I think that really kind of hurt us. So we kind of knew we were going to be playing them, but we had the scheduling thing, and I know Jay always can attest to this too. It's like you don't ever want to overlook anyone. So we had 2 really big games that week. I think we had River Ridge on Wednesday, if I remember, and then Lena on Friday. And I'm not saying that we were going to win, but I do think having like actual days to prepare ahead of time it could only have helped us, right? So we had kind of, unfortunately, with that aspect, like we played River Ridge at home, really big game, practiced for Lena the next day, and then turned around and played. And I think CSE had like 3 days off. So obviously they got to really focus in on us. Again, not making an excuse. I just think that's something as a staff we talked about that probably could have helped at least a little bit for our kids because we kind of showed up Saturday. We had touched base on them a little bit, but it's like you can only do so much in a walkthrough and in a film session, to replicate what you're going to see. So AE, do you have anything you wanted to add about their size?
About their size, they were obviously big, but I think one thing that us as a team, like we went into the locker room at halftime and we were like, yeah, they just punched us in our face basically, and so we tried to come out like and give them the same energy, but for us as a team, we have had those like slow starts, and playing that team really showed like who played the starters or whatever who played how to kind of come out like that and come out with energy. So from that game, I think we always go back to that game and we're like, we need to bring energy like how they brought it to us, and that's how we kind of start games now.
Mhm.
So I think it was definitely a good learning experience, and it's helped all of us as a team.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, and I don't know if parents sometimes feel this way, but I guess I'm that way. I've always said that as a coach, it's like it's okay to lose sometimes. Like
Mhm.
it's okay, and you can't say don't look past any team, and then you start when you like you said when you have a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday game, and you start practicing for Saturday before you get to Wednesday, right?
Yep.
And it's like that's the one, like you said, negative thing of having the games we have, but it's okay to lose sometimes because you find kind of what you're not good at, and you can, I always tell kids, find your weakness and make it your strength, right?
Yep.
Like, okay, so we're not good at this, now we got to get better, and we got a place to go. If you play teams that you can't sharpen yourself at, you're never going to get any better. And it's okay sometimes to be like, they played better,
Yep.
you lost,
Yeah.
it's okay. Like you move on. It's a loss in a loss column, and you move on to the next game.
Yep.
So,
No,
and
absolutely.
that's all it was. I mean, hopefully, you're not going to see them in a regional or a sectional or anything. They're in a 2A team, a 2A bracket, and they're going to do well for themselves, and you guys will do well for yourself.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun seeing them play on top of that because we'd watched Peoria Notre Dame, the defending 2H state champs, play at the Boylan games over the Christmas holiday, and I kept talking about how cool it would be to see those two teams play
yeah.
each other
Yeah, they're
because
both
of
legit.
the size, because
They're
of the
legit. They
size.
are both. They're good.
Well, and that's what we mean on going on the schedule. And as long, I've always said as long as I can, without like not learning anything, because I think you can be at a point in your program where maybe you just don't have the talent, right? And you don't get anything out of it. But I think if you have the talent to go against teams, and yeah, it may be a loss, it's okay. And that's why I always like we go to the Boylan tournament. It's like you're going to play teams you normally don't see. They're going to put you in positions you've never been in. And if you lose a couple games, it really doesn't hurt anything because you're not losing or playing against teams you normally see. And that's where you got to find out what you're not good at. And I know seeing Peoria Notre Dame and seeing Camp Point, they're two teams that I think would do well anywhere around here.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. No. Yeah. They were both really good. So.
Transform your outdoors with Baber Service Company. Landscape design and construction, including retaining walls and patios, mulch and rock beds, seasonal cleanups, and so much more. Serving Joe Davies, Carroll, Stevenson, Winnebago, Whiteside, Ogle, and Lee counties. Enhance your outdoor space with expert craftsmanship and attention to detail. Contact Baber Service Company today at 815-291-6334.
So, Elaina, you're projected to reach 2,000 points. I was doing the math yesterday in the
Mhm.
last week of the regular season, most notably against Jay's Orangeville Broncos.
Yeah. Kyle had to do the old math equation. We're gonna have to figure something out now.
Cool.
What does it mean to you to become the 15th or 16th player in the area and 7th or 8th player in NUIC history to achieve this milestone?
Yeah, it's definitely a milestone. Just with all the hard work that I've put in, my mom and dad and everyone around me who have like been with me and helped me through everything I need to be where I am right now. It's really a blessing. Like I wouldn't be here without my coaches and my trainers. I don't know. It's really cool. But
Yeah, it's one of those things. I have the 15th or 16th or 7th or 8th player, and that's how I told Kyle we gotta do it because you don't know where everything's gonna go. But I know it's like you're programmed not to talk about individual stuff. I know you got to think, well, if I talk about and Laney's the same way, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like that 2,000 point is something. That 2,000 point is a lot of work of staying healthy, having good teammates,
Yes,
being on good and doing it. And I always talk about this, doing it on good teams.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
that's one of the big keys. And going down that list, we were looking at the list beforehand, and I know the Hensley was one that was on it. She won a state title and won, a regional, all that stuff. And you look at it, if you can put those numbers up and still make your team a regional uh, winner, a conference winner, and all those things, I think that's more than anything
Yeah.
a credit to you as a player and you as the players around you to still do those things and get those individual stuff. And I know nobody wants to talk about individual stuff till the season's over and stuff like that. We can talk about it. But yeah, it's the 2,000 mark is something, and the 1,000 mark was always there. And then I think you go 1,000, 1,500, and then now the 2,000 has always been the elite side of it.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without my team like around me. Like, they work hard. They work hard with me too. So,
No, and
yeah.
I think that's what get lost, because it's an individual thing and you don't want to talk about it. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like you got to be on doing it on a good team that you guys have had. You've won multiple regionals. You've been in a sectional, and then still to do it is a credit to you.
Well, it's like we said too. I mean, you had Jody Moyer.
Now hers is something crazy because that's a number I don't think Laney will catch. And she was around 2,300. She did it with no 3-pointer.
Oof,
Ooh,
that's legit.
that's crazy.
That was, and I'm 99.9% sure because we joke about it because she's one that stayed up on Laney because now Laney is second all time at Orangeville. Jody's number one. Brian Hildebrand was number two, and Laney went past Brian a while back there a couple weeks ago. But Jody did it at 2,300 without the 3-point line. And you think
That's
about something like that, it's like that's something different there.
Yeah.
That's something different
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, and Orangeville went on some good runs while she was there too, didn't they?
Yeah, if you look at the 80s and that with Miller, it was a conference and a regional title
Yeah.
like every year, and they just couldn't get past the super sectional. They'd always run into somebody. It was just always somebody that was played better. I remember being there as a small kid. I can't really tell you much. I remember we were always on the wrong side, never got to go to state, but they were always there. But yeah, it was a pretty cool time. But yeah, pretty cool to experience that. And if you do it against the Orangeville Broncos, we'll be supporting you. We'll
Thank you.
Should we make him?
clap.
Should we make him come out and give you the ball?
That'd be
Yes,
great.
yes. I will have to put my head down and then I'll kick who's ever asked.
We should make
Who's
it.
ever gave her the shot or layup. They'll be benched and on the bench.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's been quite a run, like you said. You had Tracy Boyer at Stockton, and Stockton was starting to get good. And as soon as she graduated, you had Stephanie Hyde come in, and she guided Stockton to the Elite Eight. And then Sophie Bruner was another one, obviously back-to-back state champs at Ackwen. And then Erin Hensley helping Eastland get to a state championship in that 2020 season right before COVID hit. So
And Furlong recently.
and Gracie
Gracie
Furlong
Furlong.
is on that list now too, hitting that mark back in over Christmas break. And she's obviously been at state twice with second and third place games, and then lost in the super sectionals last season. So, yeah, it's just like you said, it's a career milestone that talks a lot about how well you've stayed healthy, but also what kind of team atmosphere you're on. And I've talked to Jay about this, having obviously watched you, Elaina, play quite a few times over the last couple of years, watching Laney play, and I've been fortunate enough to see Gracie play 2 or 3 times already this year as well, for the first time. And the thing that I've talked to Jay about is the similarities between all three of you. You all three are clearly the best players on your teams, but at the same time, you guys definitely play within your team scope of what your schemes are within your team environment. And you all show the same leadership capabilities of picking each other up. I just the other night, against Orangeville, you guys were getting into it, and especially when you guys jumped out to that quick early lead, you had those 3 threes, but then Riley Alexander had a big play. Peyton Thomas hit a big shot as well. And I mean, and then the way Kiana was doing things as well, helping to control your pace and your offense. And you guys were all like sitting there joyfully pushing each other around. Like that's the kind of team camaraderie and chemistry that you start to see. And none of you guys really stand out as me players. You guys are all very much team players, we players, and you facilitate that within your team chemistry.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
So it's like they all do scoring well, and they all do it a little different when you watch how their games are, but they all end up at the same spot at the end of the day. And
Yep.
that's being good leaders on winning teams, and will be there here at the end of the season, I think, contending for regional titles. I really think that with all 3 teams, moving forward. So,
For sure.
So moving on to how the seasons went as a team. Dan, this year you guys sit with an 18-4 record. What has been the key to success with the group as a whole, and what might have been some early struggles that you've seen that you guys have worked through?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, I think the biggest thing this year has been senior leadership. Every coach says that, but I think this year we have 5 seniors, and I think they all bring something different. So I think there's a difference between like being vocal and then kind of leading by example, and we kind of have a perfect blend. So early in the year, like I look at like the Thomas twins, Maddox and Peyton, they kind of are more like the rah-rah, like, they bring the energy and like celebrate everybody's successes on the court and kind of do like the celebrations on the bench and kind of lead stuff like that and on the court. And then you look at like an Eric Alexander, new kid who came to the district, obviously. And I think she just brings like a verve and like an energy on the court. It seems like in every big game, she's come up with like 2 or 3 baskets, and she's kind of the one that's going to like flex and like get everybody like really amped. And then obviously Elaina, when I think of her, she's a lead by example type of girl. I mean, if you're anywhere around her, if you're any kid in any sport, like you're seeing how it's done on a daily basis. And then obviously Kiana this year, I think what I'm really proud of her in the sense, like she's been kind of our vocal leader. Like there's times I'll go in the locker room and as a staff, like we don't even have to say anything. Like Kiana just kind of says what needs to be said and everybody's like, yep. And we go out there and take the court. So that's the biggest thing from the start was the senior leadership for sure. I think the other part that I think has been huge, and this is a credit to our staff, especially Coach Paulson and Coach Rager and Beck, they kind of forefront the defensive stuff for sure, is our defense. I think this year, number one, our kids play really hard all the time. And I think they push each other to play hard all the time, and we're able to kind of mix and match defenses with the athletes that we have. So that's a huge advantage to our success. Riley Alexander, Cora Naut as freshmen doing it. We have Amani Boyd and Delaney Handy as juniors who can come in and play in the paint. And then the seniors also obviously are able to rotate around in different spots. So our defense has been huge. And obviously you can have a bad shooting night, you can have an off-scoring night, but when the defense is there, it keeps you in games and gives you a chance to win against anybody. And then lastly, I think the biggest thing with this group that as a coach, this is when you know that your team can be special. And I kind of saw this really early in the year. They're just really selfless. I think kind of like Jay said, like everybody kind of gets to their numbers, like their mark. But what I love about them is like they don't really care about stats. Like, they don't care about how many shots they get. They just want to win, and they do what it takes to win. And with that said, because of the schedule, kind of going back to what you guys mentioned about playing tough teams, one of the things that as a coach, like when you lose a game, sometimes you're worried like, okay, is this going to derail like confidence? Is this going to like set us back? And this group has answered the bell every time. They come back to practice. They're ready to work. They're willing to take criticism in the film room and like learn from it. They're willing to take extra shots, come back, and stay late. They're willing to go on the road and watch teams play. So I think that's been the biggest parts of our success. And then obviously the support from the whole entire admin and this whole school. We have great fans, great parents. That's been a key. Areas for growth. I'm sure Jay can attest to this. Every coach in America hates turnovers, and I hate when we turn the basketball over. So that's always something that we're always working towards. I'm sure the girls get tired of me saying value the basketball, don't, take care of it. I'm sure Elena's probably like, I've heard this like 25 times because we've played, however many games.
25,000
Yeah, whatever. Okay, take care of it, and then take care of it, and then you don't have to hear from the coaches.
What? Just don't turn the ball over, and everything will
Right.
be okay, right? Like
That's
I
you
try.
got to give. I always give the math because I'm always like we're not a great shooting team as it shows sometimes, and it's like if you turn the ball over 20 times, that's 20 shots you don't get, and let's say it's all 2-pointers and you lose by 6. Do the math for me, and they just all sit there.
Yeah.
They're done listening to me anyways. But
I know. Yeah.
it's like one of those things they don't want to hear about it, but it's like it is something that you have to clean up. You want to you 10 a game is like what I always talk about. You can't have more
Yep.
than 10 a game.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's that one. And then I think the other area, this wasn't, I don't know that was a struggle. I just think it's more, I mean, this is every team, obviously, that they go through this. So we obviously we have we're starting younger freshmen and playing some seniors. So like, I think one of the things we fought at the beginning of the year is like, for both the seniors to get the freshmen to understand like, hey, like we need you to be you, like just play the way you have always played your whole life. And not just the freshmen, like obviously I said, we play some juniors too. And them, they didn't have a ton of varsity experience. So I think that was a big part of it at the beginning of the year. Like, hey, girls, just be yourself. Like, we don't care if you shoot. We don't care if you miss. Like, as long as you're trying and doing everything that you can to help win, like, that's what they want. And they've kind of instilled that confidence in them. And then on the flip side, I think for the freshman portion of it, they probably go into it like, I just don't want to let the seniors down. Like, they don't want to make any mistakes. And, once we kind of got over that, like it's, the only way you can do that is by playing. That's the way I look at it. Like you gotta play games and practice together to get through that experience, and to develop that chemistry. So that was probably something I think early in the year that we kind of fought through. And now you're starting to see like, okay, the whole team is just playing it the way that we want them to play. And I think that's kind of been a huge, huge key to us kind of taking some steps forward lately. So
Elaina, you have Dad on the bench. What is it like having him on the bench with you, especially this year being your senior year before you head off to Wright State?
Yeah, well, he's been on the bench for as long as I can remember. With that, like, it comes some frustrations, obviously. And a lot of the times I do know what he's gonna say. I don't know what he's gonna say all the time because I don't, he knows what he's talking about. But, like, I'll finish his sentences and it'll make me mad because I know what he's gonna say. But it's nice also having him on the bench, just to be able to be like, what am I doing? Like when I'm really struggling, I sometimes I go to him. I do go to other coaches when I'm really frustrated, but I'll look at him in the game and I'm like help me out. Like what am I doing? I need help. I suck. And he helps me out with my mental side. But with Wright State, with not having him, I think that it will help me grow in different ways and yeah, I don't know. Just not having him there, I'm gonna have to
figure it out, right?
Figure it out, yeah.
Make those adjustments. Talking to him yesterday, he did make mention of, there's times where you guys would have those arguments of what would be going on, and then there would be like complete silence because you were just done with the conversation. And he recognizes that, and he appreciates that you are becoming your own person and seeing the things that you do wrong, the things that you do right. Obviously, he does appreciate the fact that you do reach out to him, but he's also appreciative of the fact that you have other coaches on your staff with Rosie and, of course, Coach Beck as guys that you can also talk to and get more information from to help you out in your game, especially in those moments where you guys might not necessarily be seeing eye to eye.
Right. I mean, I think that he ultimately, I know he wants the best for me. I know he's just trying to help me. So sometimes I just need to take a deep breath and just listen to him and just say, okay, and say, thanks, Dad, and just
walk away.
Yeah.
So Wright State, tell us about the recruitment process, how it ended up being Wright State, and what set them apart from other schools that may have been looking at you.
Yeah, so well, my eighth grade year, I think it was like a COVID year. So it's kind of a long story, but a COVID year, my dad and I think Tyler Hoffman made flight time. So we played 22 tournaments that year. It was crazy up in the Dells. And one game, I think we played Stockton, and Tiana Timke and Tim, her dad. We played them, and I played pretty well against her. She was where'd she go? Central Michigan.
Yep.
And she was a really good player, and I played like pretty well against them. So she reached out to me after the game, and she was like, I don't know if you're looking for a program to go into, but the Lakers, which was the one that she was a part of, she was like, I think that would be a really good fit for you. So we were like, okay, like we can try it out. So she went with me to one of the workouts, and she kind of showed me the ropes. I'm really thankful for her and her dad. I don't know what I would really do without them right now. But she showed me the ropes and guided me along, like just the Lakers program and getting me into that. And then with Wright State, you have to be obviously on the courts to be recognized, and so being a part of a program obviously means a lot. But Wright State, they talked to me pretty early. A lot of coaches reached out, but they talked to me my sophomore year, I think, and then she wanted me to get on like a visit to meet us and meet my family. Because she cares like about the recruits and wants to make sure that she's bringing in the right people and the right family into her program, which I really liked that about them. So I went on the visit, and the first time I was there, we went to breakfast, the coaches and some of the players, and they made me feel super comfortable. Like obviously I was nervous, but the coaches made me feel at home. And then we went to one of the practices with all the girls, and a lot of the girls came up to me, were like, hi, I'm like whatever. They introduced themselves to me, and I just like when I talked to other coaches, I kind of compared them to compared that coach to the Wright State coach, and I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but I think that's the ultimate thing. Like if I'm comparing one coach to another coach, like I think I really enjoy that coach, and I like their playing style and everything. So yeah.
I think with anything, whether it's going to a sports side of it or just going to a college, when you're looking at stuff, I got two currently there, but once they toured a couple, and I always say you got to tour a couple, you got to see what the university's like. I think generally, right? Like you have that feeling of, I know in the two kids I got that are in college, they both chose different schools, right? But they knew when they got there that that's where they felt the most home like. And I think that's just what you're saying. You compared everything to the coach at Wright State, and when you're doing that and it all comes back to it, it's an easy decision on your end, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that is what it came down to.
So Wright State major, what are you going into? 7 years from now, Elaina Reger, when she's done at Wright State, what is we can go 5 years if that's better.
I don't know. Yeah.
5 to 7 years, you get done playing. What's the major going to be, and what's the end game coming out of there?
Yeah. So I'm not really exactly sure what I want to go into. Sports nutrition or like sports science, like a physical therapist maybe. I'm not really sure, but I know that I am interested in that. So yeah, I'm not really sure at that point, like on that like majors, but 5 to 7 or 10 years, I just want to like enjoy my career in whatever I'm working in and work hard in that, and I'm probably still going to be working out because I love working out, and then I want to live on a lake to wakeboard and surf, and that's what makes me happy. So I want to do that.
Always remember that. Do what makes you happy.
Do what makes you happy.
Don't worry about everybody else. Don't worry about I always say that to the kids. I'm like, do what you want to do rather than feeling you got to live to someone else's expectation. And
Yeah.
if it's wakeboarding and doing that stuff, then make sure you're doing that to make yourself happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know what that lake life feels like. I mean, you got to be on the water. You got to do those things. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of rejuvenation that comes with that. I know
Mhm.
I can go out with a couple friends out on the lake and, after a hard week and sit back and have some good conversation, float in the water for a while, just soak up the day. And it brings you a whole new level of rejuvenation and energy to put your mind back and focus on what you want to do and accomplish.
You a
Yeah.
lake guy, Rosie?
So this is really funny. So my wife, her family had a lake up in Wisconsin, and unfortunately they just sold it. And they love lake life. And then they like see me, and they can tell after like I struggle. I'm too antsy of a person. I got to be moving around, so I struggle sometimes. But at the same time, I do see the satisfaction of like the relaxation for people. So I'm trying to, maybe as I get older, I can start to mellow out a little bit and calm down. But it just seems like I'm too antsy right now. But I did experience it, so I have
I hear
experience.
you there. I can't swim, so I've never been a lake guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of my buddies want to take me swimming. I don't know why, but they know I
Yeah.
can't swim. I think to get rid of me. But
Right.
there's a different crew when you're talking people with the old lake house and that. They always have to talk about the lake house and
Yeah.
the lake vibe and everything like that. I go to the golf course.
That's
And
right.
I
That's
know
where
you're a golf guy, right?
me. That is me. Yep. I'm like, all right.
Dad's a big golfer.
He is. Yeah.
Who
So
who wins that matchup in the family?
So true story. So my dad, he runs the Winnebago Forest Preserve. He's the golf pro there.
Yep.
3 golf courses in that county. So he's obviously been in the golf business his whole life. I didn't really start golfing until COVID. I didn't play it in high school. He never pushed it on us, even though that was his sport. If we play head to head, he wins 99% of the time. But I will admit, this past year I played in the Freeport Stevenson Cup, and I finally got him once. I think I shot 78 in the second round, and he shot like 79 or 80. And then, of course, he says it's a 2-round event, and he beat me by 2 strokes in the overall, so he won't let me take the credit, even though I kicked his butt on that Sunday. And but he wins 99% of the time. It's something that we do together. I like that we're competitive people, but we've really bonded together. We've taken the like competitive side out of it, and it's been great. So that's something we always do. But he wins.
So you beat him on a Sunday. Were you wearing your Tiger Sunday red?
No, I think I was wearing. I really don't remember. I feel like I was wearing pink. I'm not even kidding. I have like one pink polo. I have one pink polo, which that's Elena's favorite color. So I'm sure she'd have been all for it. But
Yeah.
I think I was wearing pink because I remember I was sweating so bad because I was so nervous, like waiting to see what he scored when I got in, because I knew like I think I got a shot today.
Got it pretty good, right?
Yeah, I was feeling really good, and I was like, I think I got a shot, and ended up. But yeah, I think I was wearing no Tiger red though. I'm not.
Yeah,
mad.
you got to go a different color. You can't be the pink guy.
I know.
I am
knew-
always all when we got a tournament or anything. I'm always all black. I got to go full Mamba.
That's
Full
what.
Mamba is where you got to go. But it's
That's
really
what we
bad
said.
when it's like 100 degrees out. They think you're an idiot.
Yep.
They're like, why the
That's
hell
what
are you
I'm
wearing black? I'm like, well, I got to go full Mamba tonight.
That's why I can't be like, I can't pull a Coach Heisler. Like, he can wear those suits and I sweat too much. I'm just too self-conscious to like rock something.
You'd have the big armpit marks
Yeah,
on the wrist
just
thing,
like,
and everybody making fun of
do
you.
it. So I got to go black so I can, protect myself a little bit.
Yes, you got to think of those things. You got to think of
Yep.
those things. That's coaching
sure.
right there.
Yep.
That is coaching.
Sure.
Yeah, Coach Heisler, he's got some mad game on the sidelines, that's for
Yeah, he
sure.
does.
I mean, the different suits. Yesterday it was the nice new polo or the nice new Under Armour. I don't even know what you want to call it, just a pullover basically. But I do like the integration of the state of Illinois with the P on the chest there. That was pretty cool. It was cool to see the entire coaching staff wearing all that. Same
I always
ditto.
joke. He probably has to have a lot of money. He has like 8 coaches over there,
Yeah.
so
That's
got to buy a lot of shirts for him.
Yep. Yeah, the girls always give us a hard time because Coach Beck on our staff, I call him Bougie Beck. He probably hates coaching with me because I'm always like, he's like, what are we wearing? I'm like, just a plain polo and like a black cover up. And he's got like the style and the wardrobe, so the girls always give me a hard time about it too. Like
You
that
got to
I'm never.
step up your game. You got to
I
step
know,
up that game.
Yeah, no, they always give me a hard time about it.
And on top of that, you're gonna have to get more warm-ups to match the boys' style.
Yeah, it's like we just got new uniforms this year. We just got them, and I was like, oh, sweet. Like we caught up, and then I come back and they have like 3 more, and I'm like, man, We gotta up the budget here, man.
Yeah, the one positive for being a basketball coach, we don't have to look like them baseball guys that want to relive their glory days and get in uniform.
Oh,
It,
come
it,
on,
it would
man.
it would look really weird if we had to wear like basketball uniforms, because now today basketball uniforms are completely different than when, like,
Oh, yeah.
I could say when your dad and I played. We
Yeah.
went back and forth back in the day. I don't know if he ever told you that.
Oh yeah, he told me. He said something about like, so didn't you guys get him in a regional after, like they beat you like in the regular season and
Yeah,
then you
we
guys
sent
got
his ass
him in
home is what we did.
the
We sent your dad home.
I let him know. My brother and I always tell him, we're like, it looks like it's a good thing you got me and Derek, because you know the regionals and the sectionals and the success is coming from the kids and mom, not you. So
He'll blame that on his boy Johnny Pullhill.
yeah, he always brings that one up too. Yeah, he's
Yes, but I forget where I was going to go with that. I got all riled up with thinking of back when we whooped your dad at Aquin. But yeah, those are the good things of what after when you're done, Elaina, you will have the same conversations 10 years down the road when you're doing your pod, talking to people, talking about the good old days.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Everyone does it. My dad does it all the time, talking about his good old days.
Now, what did he do? Where did he go to school?
He went to some no. He went to a D3 for football, and then he like blew out his knee, I think.
You were talking about those bad knees earlier.
Yeah, and then I think he just quit playing because he got injured. But he said he was really strong and he was good. That's what he says.
He was all good.
Well, he looks the part, that's for sure. So, Dan, what have been some of the most positive experiences, like in the first couple of years, taking over the job as the head girls coach? What has been the things that you've had to learn quick on the job to help keep the success from the previous year moving into the new year?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, first off, being in Pecatonica has been one of the biggest blessings of my life. So Coach Heisler called me when I was, playing in college, and I kind of got to the point where, like, okay, it's time to hang it up. Like, I'm not going to be a basketball player. Let's put it that way. They're not going to pay the bills. So I was able to get on staff with the boys, and all of a sudden I just kind of fell in love with the families here. Especially this senior class, I was able to kind of relate to a lot of the parents and just kind of see these kids mature and grow. And then the job opportunity kind of just fell in my lap. Like, they had just won a regional and I wasn't expecting it. And I felt like I was ready. Coach Heisler kind of helped me. Like, he was preparing me, like, show me other job opportunities that were out there. Like, hey, are you interested here? You might be a good fit here. And the girls' job opened in the spring, and I took it. And I think right away from there, the experiences have been great. I'll never forget the day I got the job, or like it went through the board. I remember a senior, Paige Moore, one of my first seniors I had, she texted me and she was like, I wasn't going to play, and then I found out you're coaching and I want to play for you. So that's one of them. And then I think kind of just going through each year. So that experience with Paige, and then obviously the first year we won the regional. So that experience of winning that with that team, I felt like we kind of reached like the highest level we could with that group. Like I said, the seniors, I have a funny story. So this is something that I'll always hold in my heart. I think Elaina probably knows where I'm going, but her older sister, Lauren, wasn't going to play either. So both seniors were kind of on the fence. And we went out to ice cream after the Byron Summer League, and Lauren kind of saw the vibe of like what was going on. And she's like, I want to give this a try. And then sure enough, she played and had a great year, and like started at the end of the year, and she cried on senior night. And she made me cry in the locker room, because she was like, this has meant so much to me, this team, like just having someone to believe in. So that's one. The same thing from that year, like from an on the court experience. I remember Peyton Thomas, sophomore, started every game, doesn't get the credit she deserves from a statistical standpoint. She had a game-winning layup. I'll never forget that. Against Aquin in the regional, she had a putback layup to give us the lead. And then I think in that same game, Lauren Mellentine, I think she scored like 19, and Elaina got hurt, I think, right in the first half, or like a bloody nose or something. And Lauren hit like 4 threes to kind of keep us floating and like keep us in it. And then Elaina came back in. And my last one from the first year, I would say, I'll never forget this. This kid sitting next to me, it's worked so hard. I came into the school that Saturday after the game, and I was doing getting ready to put the laundry away, and she was shooting, and she had 25 points, like 12 rebounds. Like she helped us win the regional, obviously. And to see a sophomore kid like kind of reach that moment of like, hey, I just, really helped us win a regional, and then to just like put in work the next morning, like, ho hum, nothing's changed, really like opened my eyes to how special she is. And then kind of moving on. So the next year, when Kiana Degner texted that she was coming back, that was a really, really big sigh of relief for me because that kid also doesn't get enough credit. You could pick a sport, you could pick a hobby, like she's going to be really good at. She's just like one of the most naturally gifted people I've ever, I mean, she's one of Elena's best friends. Like she just shows up and gets out of bed. And so that moment, getting her back really helped our team. And then last year, we had a lot of individual records. Lauren Melentine broke the 3-point record. She had some games that she lit it up. I think she tied the record in a couple games and broke the season record. And then Elaina got the most career points, 1,000 points, all that stuff that came with it. And then we broke the school record for wins, which was great. Kind of moving on. So this year, the senior leadership, that's been something I will always cherish, and I think is something that has helped the program. Our bench mob this year, that's something new we kind of copied from the boys. We've all of a sudden, like, our girls do cheers and like stand up and do different celebrations. That's something that has been a positive experience. And then I think too, this year especially, we play the freshmen, obviously seeing them have those positive experiences that start on the varsity, but also the fresh soft team. Because I think sometimes people forget, so those two obviously have been key contributors to that grade level their whole life, and now they're not playing with them. And our fresh soft team is like 13-2 or 14-2. And to see different kids get an opportunity to do different things has been really something I've cherished, and it's the backbone of how we're going to keep the program going, obviously in the future. And then I think your second question was the continued success part. Is that right,
Yep.
Kyle? What
Yep.
is?
Yep, that's correct.
So this one, I learned really fast at a really young age. I've been around basketball a long time with a lot of great coaches. You have to have the right people around you, and people make you. Our staff, I could go on for days about him, but Coach Beck, he fits in really great. He's got great ties to the freshman and senior class, especially. They're really close. Coach Paulson, couldn't pick a better guy to kind of jump on board, especially. He was my first hire when I got to pick, and he's really helped us. I think the girls love him and really respect what he brings to the table. Coach Rager kind of kept things going because he was the only guy that stayed and had the relationships with the kids ahead of time. And then the other guy I wanted to mention too was Coach Bull. He's not on staff officially this year, but he does a lot of scouting for us. He was on staff last year, just work. He's got a real job, so he had to, he had to step away from that, but he still helps us with the scouting. And then I think being adaptable, you got to be willing to make changes. Each year's different. Each team's different. I learned that right away. You got to do what's best for that team and try to keep the program going in that route. Scheduling the tough opponents I mentioned. And then the last one, this is something I think that never gets talked about enough, but you have to have incredible support from the wives and the significant others. I just got married, and my wife lets me chase a dream every single day. She probably misses me at home a lot. And, it was funny. We got married in October, and it's bye. I'll see you on the honeymoon here in March. She's okay with it. And I really appreciate her. And not just her though, Melissa Rager, Coach Paulson's fiance, Coach Bull's wife, Coach Beck's wife, they actively let us chase a dream for the sake of kids. And that's when, they have a pure heart and are willing to sacrifice a lot for us to do what we do. So I would say those things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate enough, and I know Jay can feel the same for Shy. I'm fortunate enough to have Carrie. She's always behind me, obviously doing podcasts with NUIC All Access now with Jay, running NUICfootball.com like I've been doing for the past decade, and then getting back into coaching high school baseball at Dakota because I had spent 3 years down at Forreston before I got to venture back to my alma mater, and it's been very grateful to say the least, but you're right. You have to have that support. They have to be behind you. And when they are, it makes it a lot more fun. And then your responsibility that you have to your community as well to help guide and direct the people that are coming through your school district that are going to be future members of our community when they become men and women in everyday society as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I always find I get along better with Shy when I'm not around. So that's how it works for me. I don't know. She likes me a lot more when she don't have to deal with me. But last question for you, Elaina. So not that we want to talk about it, but season will come to an end. What does, or maybe you don't know, but what does the summer look like for you? When do you head off to Wright State? Have they been in touch with you about things they want you to do and when they want you to come in?
Yeah,
What's that look like?
so I'll graduate and then I'll have like a week off. But my grandma actually scheduled, or not scheduled, but she is taking some of my cousins to the Dominican Republic for a missions trip. So I'll do that, and then I think right from there I'll go to college. I'll fly right to college, and then the next day we'll start practicing and strength training and everything. And then I think I'll be there for a while, and then mid-July, um, I think I'll be home for a couple weeks, and
Gotcha.
before I have to go back to school in August.
Cool. No, I just have they been in touch with you over this basketball season and everything like that, and still
Yeah,
in
they
talk?
do. Like some of the coaches text me before games, just wishing me good luck. My head coach actually came to the Stockton game, and we actually had dinner before, and
Nice.
we hung out at dinner, and she came to watch me play, and yeah, she flew down, and it was a good time. It was really good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So obviously, you guys got some big things looking ahead. Elaina, you're pressing on, looking at the end of a great career that you've had, a career that a lot of people wish that they could have, but you're doing it with a great core of teammates and friends, obviously, good coaching staff that you guys have there as well. Um, Clearly, you guys are pushing for a conference title, which you currently hold the lead in the conference race, but obviously we know you guys got some tough games coming down the road as well that can either help guide you to that conference championship or could derail you at the same time. But either way, you guys are off to a great start, 18-4. Big things coming up down the road as we get closer through the conference push and then into that regional seedings. And then, of course, the regional play and the whole high school basketball tournament starting up. So
Yep.
we, but me too, want to wish you guys the best of luck as you guys continue to push forward.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no, I think you guys put yourself in a great position with what you guys have done so far. We'll see you guys as in what 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
Hopefully, if
Yep.
if it does work out right, Elaina, we'll be the first ones to clap for you for the 2,000. Don't get
Yeah.
2,000 too many against us, but it's good to get 2,000 enough. But no, it shapes up to be an exciting end of the season here. You guys put yourself in position. We're in a position where we know we're at, and a lot of the other teams in the area, and you play for it, and you hope you see everybody regional time, sectional time, playing their best basketball, and the best team wins. That's all you hope for.
So
Sure.
thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your stories. We appreciate the conversation. And like I said, we wish you guys the best of luck moving forward for Pecatonica.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. So, thank you.
What a great conversation we just got done having, Jay, with Elaina Rager and Dan Rosenstiel, the head coach of Pecatonica, and of course Elaina being Pecatonica's all-time leading scorer and rebounder. And what a career she's had in her time, both in volleyball and in basketball. And it was great to get to visit to see, how everything is going and how she got to Wright State from where she's at. Obviously, looking at the interest that she could have had with volleyball, but just hearing her genuine response to she just wanted to be playing volleyball, to be with the girls. But in the meantime, it happened to work out to a great
She did a
career
pretty good
for her.
job at did a pretty good job at it. Yeah, being the leader in four categories, two in volleyball, two in basketball, and then doing it also getting that Division I scholarship that she was hoping for. Again, you root for girls like that coming out of the NUIC that do multiple sports, team player, and has been on successful volleyball and basketball teams.
Yeah, and I mean, another girl in our area, in our conference this year alone. I mean, if you would have came into this season thinking that we would have 3 girls that would eclipse or have the potential of eclipsing 2,000 career points, when there's only 6 girls ever in conference history to reach that mark. Well, 6 now, but 5 coming into the season. I mean, that's just we've almost doubled the amount of 2,000 point scores in one season.
Yeah, I remember a comment was made. Laney was one of the guests on Scott Leber on 23 about her interview. And one of the things he said was how blessed it is to have her in the program. I think when you look at these girls, I think each program can say how blessed they were to have these girls go through their program, whether it be one who had already hit it in Gracie Furlong at Galena with 2,000, and then with Lainey and Elaina. I think each program, speaking for myself, can say they're easy to coach, not only because of their ability, but also because of just how they are as people. And that's why they'll be successful when it matters, and that's after graduation and in moving on in life. They're all, in watching them play, you can tell team first players do what's best for the team.
Yeah.
And those are the type of people you want to have. And congrats to Gracie so far. And knock on wood, the other two reach their milestone here soon. And they can start looking forward to a conference and regionals coming up.
So looking at that, we got Lainey is 33 points away from hitting it, and she's got games this week with Dakota on Wednesday, and then Rockford Christian on Friday. Elaina Rager's 148 points away from reaching that mark, and we project that to happen the last week of regular season, which would be the week of February 10th. And all three of their games for Pecatonica that week are at home.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she's projected based off of where she's at point total wise and what her average is right now to reach that mark against your Orangeville Broncos in the second to last game of the regular season, provided that all plays out. Obviously, anything can happen. But at the forefront, you just hope that these girls stay healthy. We know that, Lainey's been battling some issues this season with pneumonia and playing through that, and then she suffered the ankle sprain, which has been hampering her still a little bit. And you just, like you said, it's a career milestone, but really it's a milestone that comes with staying healthy through all of it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that, knock on wood for all of them, they stay healthy, and every team does. You hate to see a injury turn a season or anything, and I know, speaking for myself, it's not as an excuse. You look at the numbers, but I just know hopefully we can get Lainey back to healthy. She hurt it against Galena. Normally you'd set out, but in the situation where we're at with trying to contend and win games, she's played through it. She's probably about 70-60%. And hopefully she can get there by the end of the year. If not, that's life, man. That's basketball.
Yeah.
That's how it is. You got to play tough. You got to play through it, and you got to get where you need to be. And that's why she's where she's at. And again, it's just kind of comical when you do the stats and you play all these games, and it comes down where Elaina it could happen against us, who's been, I think, a rival of theirs through her 4 years. I think it's funny but good, because nobody would support it more than us. And I would hope that they would do the same for Elaine, right? Like,
they would.
You want that, and I know as a coaching staff on our end and a coaching staff on their end, you throw all the other stuff out. You root for that, and we'll be rooting for Elaina. Hopefully, she don't get 2,000 too many, but yeah, credit to her and moving forward. And they with their wins, they really kind of sealed up, I think. They got a shot at a conference title, and they got the shot at the number 1 seed for regionals, which was I'm sure their goals at the beginning of the year, and that's what they're playing. They're playing good basketball, and that's where they're at. And that was the big game in the north. As we're talking now to the south, some things happened last week that we were talking about. River Ridge and Stockton both played East Dubuque. Stockton beat East Dubuque by, I know it was less than 10. Good game though. River Ridge beat East Dubuque in double overtime by 1. We talk about who plays who, and that was the only time River Ridge was going to see East Dubuque before the seedings. This is going to be a big week in girls basketball in the West, because Stockton will play River Ridge and Galena. River Ridge, of course, has Galena and Stockton. Galena has the big one. They have River Ridge the 22nd, East Dubuque the 24th, and Stockton the 28th. Those are all big games when you're talking head-to-head.
Yep.
And I know, like, River Ridge has the best record, and then you look at Stockton and Galena. I think East Dubuque now has played themselves into that 4 seed with their losses, right? But these are 1 through 3 I think you're playing for, and it's all going to be head to head. I think in talking with Daniel Rosenstiel at Peck, I think that's one of the things he talked about. It's like you look at a Galena with their schedule. They played Byron over the weekend. They played these teams, and they didn't win, right? But they're playing the top team in 2A. Should that affect their seeding? To some it does, but for me it's like, how are they doing in that? How do they play in that subsectional on their side? What's their record against it? And now what is your head to head?
Right.
That's what they're playing for, and that's how you should look at it. So a big thing in the West is going to play out this week and a half, with Stockton having to play River Ridge and Galena after already beating East Dubuque. Galena playing River Ridge, East Dubuque, and Stockton, all head to head. And River Ridge will be playing Galena and Stockton after already beating East Dubuque. So a lot there, but
Oh, sure.
that's what you're playing for in those for the 1 through 4.
And it goes back to like what Dan was saying on the show earlier too, about, he wishes it was more in front of everybody rather than across the computer to do your seating. So for those of you that don't know, we have to go into the school center on IHSA's website. We put in a little clippet of what we feel our season is like. And if you paid attention to what Dan was talking about in the show, he talks about how you got some coaches that will put a mile-long list of stuff together, where I agree with what he was stating and what you stated. You kind of throw out your entire season's record. So like Galena, for example, shouldn't be getting chastised for playing a tougher schedule and having a 9-9 record currently where they stand. Look at who they played. But what they should be looking at is, okay, how did you do in your conference? How did you do against teams that you're going to see in your regional and sectional head-to-head, and kind of list it out that way. And I mean, I know that's probably how you do it. I know that's how I do it too. I look at, here's my head-to-heads, here's last year's regional champions, here's what we did against them, and here's why we should be seated at whatever number.
Yeah, I try to make it that it should be very simple, like in thinking, to where you go head to head,
Yep.
or if you don't know head to head, you look at their schedule and see who they beat or lost to head to head, right?
Yeah.
And that is sometimes
Common opponents.
common opponent. So, like we talked about Peck, they're clearly the one. They beat,
Oh, yeah.
I think, the top seeds in Orangeville,
Lutheran.
and then I would say Lutheran would be after that. The big thing will be in that subsectional, who's your 4, and that's what we were talking about with Dan there. It's like, who's the 4? Dakota now has played hot. They get Orangeville this week on Wednesday, and then their big game head to head is going to be versus Lena. Lena won round 1. Record wise, Dakota has a better record, and they've been playing hotter lately. Lena had a couple wins here, and they have a head-to-head win already against Dakota. If they beat Dakota, then you got to look at that as a barometer that Lena is probably moving up to the 4. But if Dakota beats Lena now, it was early and now playing late. How do you seed that, and how do you look at it? Because record-wise, Dakota will have a much better record,
And then they have the split.
and then they have the split, right? So that's how normal time you should look at, and you shouldn't overlook at it. I mean, a schedule's a schedule, and
when do you guys start seeding again? Is it the
first part of February.
Okay.
First part of February.
So it's got to be that first week, because the second week seeds would already come out when
Yep.
you go into the last
Yep,
week of the season.
and game times and where you're going. So we already know the host. We know who's in which one, and that's why these head-to-head matchups are critical in that. So
especially right now over this week and next week.
and that's why mainly in the West we're looking those games with River Ridge, Galena, Stockton will pay dividends, going from a 1 to 4, and more than likely East Dubuque's the 4, and you're going to play at their place, and 2-3 is going to be played at Forreston.
Yeah.
So, or 1-4, however it goes out. On the boys' side, a lot was made last week and a lot was done. Pecatonica does what Pecatonica does.
Wow, they're awesome.
And they beat Lena 69-50, and then they beat Dakota 78-51, which was a much closer game at halftime. And then Peck went on being Peck. And then this last weekend, we were down in Peoria. I was watching some of it. We came up, but every time I was watching their game against, was it UIC?
Yes.
I was watching either Cooper Hoffman throw a dunk down, or throwing one off the backboard
For Zion.
for Zion, or Zion stealing and dunking. And I witnessed 4 dunks in a matter of like 15, 20 minutes. And that was about all I needed to see.
So me and Tom Thome, we were at that game and we were counting dunks, and there was 5 because Josh Jennings added one
Yep.
too. And then in the second game later that day, Zion added another one, and there was probably a couple other opportunities that they had the ability to go up for one, but between him and Cooper chose the safer route of putting it up against the glass for the lay-in and not having the chance of that missed dunk opportunity.
I never have a problem with somebody because as a non-dunker, I would dunk every time if I could.
But probably the best dunk I saw of the day was actually Eastland's Parker Krogman going over Hinckley Big Rock's 6'6" center and Martin Ledbetter, and just he started at the top of the key, drove the right side of the lane, took one step, and then just slammed it one-handed down right over top of Ledbetter. That was pretty phenomenal.
So speaking of that, with Peck, they really put themselves in a driver's seat, as everybody we thought, being first in conference. But that leads us to tomorrow night.
Yes.
Monday night, round 2, that everybody kind of talked about. You didn't want to talk about it before it happened, but Peck Eastland round 2.
Well, let's talk about how Eastland got there. Eastland got there by beating the number 7 team in 2A in Rockford Christian, who had been unbeaten before. And we watched the Cummings kid put up 40 in that first round game of the day, and then comes back and scores 29 against Eastland. But it was one of those things where you could just tell if Rockford Christian got off to a slow start against Eastland like they did in that first round game against Johnsburg, where they actually found themselves down 10 at halftime and then stormed back to win by 13 in the second half. They weren't going to be able to do that type of thing against Eastland. And, talk about depth. Eastland definitely has a lot of depth, a lot of team speed. They don't necessarily have the size and the reach that Pecatonica has, but they definitely have the athleticism and the speed to make a lot of things happen. And, of course, Pecatonica beat Eastland by 31 back earlier in the season in the
At Eastland
in that tournament.
Eastland
right?
shootout.
Yep. And so now they have another time to match up here. And like you said, that's one of the talks. It's not a matchup that it's one of those matchups that you want to have because that means that you're continuing to win. But now you start looking into the playoff perspective as well. This could be an opportunity for a third opportunity to meet each other as well.
Well, I think that's what everybody sees when they look at the top teams, and the Dakotas and the Linas and those teams will want to have something to say about it. But I guess for me, is just now you just put it out there, and it's like they lost by 31 at Eastland in the Eastland shootout. When, if I remember right, Hoffman and Dietrich had low point total games, right?
Yep.
That was kind of the emergence of
Zion,
the sophomore sensation, we call it, right? Yep. I don't know if Eastland needs to win for me to, or for people to think differently, but it definitely can't go down how it went down at Eastland.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's got to be a more competitive game.
And if you don't make it more competitive, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Like, I'm not saying Eastland has to come in and win. I know they're going to go there and try to win. I don't know. You may see them in the sectional thing, and you may want to, hey, we don't want to show them this or that. But at the end of the day, you got to show that you can compete with them,
right?
Because you're not going to be able to switch one thing or switch a matchup and make up 31 points. Peck is way too deep. I talked about it. I would take. If you took Dietrich and Hoffman off, I think that puts, with those two on the court, that puts them at an elite 1A team. But if you take those two off, I think you still contend for almost anything around here with what they have for depth and how they play.
For sure.
I mean, they are, and that's what makes them so scary. Is I don't know if he will or they will. Dietrich or Hoffman have an off game because of how they play. They're always going to get to the hoop and always be aggressive, and they may have a poor shooting night. But with how they play, I don't know how you combat it. That's what I want to see out of Eastland. They're probably the team that you look at that can play with them right now the most. And Dakota did for two and a half, 3 quarters.
Yep.
So they got some confidence there, right? They know, okay, if we don't fall apart mid third quarter, fourth quarter, that 78-51 game isn't a telltale sign. But you look at how Peck played Lena. At some point it's like, okay, we always make that for Lena. Well, they're coming off football. Well, you're not in football anymore.
No.
And they were tight early, but every time Lena did something, Peck did something better. And watching that game. So you just want to see who, and Eastland's a team. Like, they're going to get round 2 at them. And let's see if they improve from that 31.
And like you said, I mean, looking at that picture too, okay, you've had Dakota lose 69-50 to Eastland. They've now lost 78-51 to Pecatonica. But they've also beat East Dubuque, another team that's starting to rise that echelon of being a Power 25 team, has been in the Power 25 throughout the course of the season. So where does that put Dakota at? Are they truly that number 3 team? Because they've had a bad loss to a less than mediocre Polo team as well in the opening round of the Forreston tournament. But that's where you want to see out of Dakota to have just a little bit more consistency, because they definitely have the ability to be there, but they're just a little they're that step off from where Pecatonica and Eastland are right now.
Well, the difference is, and it comes down to,
and let's not forget Dakota did beat Lena Winslow too.
Yes, so they're sitting at that 2 spot pretty easy.
Right.
And Lena has to go through a lot to get to where they need to be. But the thing that Peck has that I would say Dakota struggles with, and that is just natural scoring. Peck sometimes, or for Dakota, sometimes it looks hard.
Yes.
And I don't know how to explain it in a sense of just you watch it and it's like, that was a hard 30 points, or that was a hard. With Peck, it's like, well, they're at 30 and you're midway through the second quarter, right? And like you got everybody doing their thing and everybody attacking and things like that. And it looks easy for them of how they pass and move the ball, and they're just fast and quick and get up in you. And sometimes with Dakota, it just looks hard, like offensively. Defensively, I think they can play with anybody because they're so big, they're so long, they rebound well. It just, if they're going to shoot the ball well and if they can score. That natural, just give me the ball and I'm going to go. And I don't know who that is for Dakota. I don't know who that is. You think that's Rakowska for Lena?
Right now, it's definitely Stuckey for Dakota, but you got to be able to get Braxton Niedermeyer, Micah Schrader, Liam Burke. You got to get all those guys into that rotation of, hey, I want to have the ball too, and when I get my open look, I got to be able to nail that down.
Yeah, and that's what Peck's doing better than anybody. Every time you look, someone else is hitting a shot, and it's gonna be a big game for them versus Eastland, and let's see how Auender and Krogman and those guys, because you got to have a little pride in the fact of you lost by 31 on your home court. You're now going to Peck. Let's see what you got in you, and that's the biggest thing. Throw X's and O's out the thing. It has to become it's going to come down to Peck wants to show that they're the king of the mountain.
Yep.
And they wanted to make it the same way they were before. And Eastland needs to see what they got in the tank of competitiveness if they can hang with the big boy. Because like I said, everybody's beating everybody else, and you can get that record up, but until you have that quality win or you're with Peck in the fourth quarter, it's still Peck and everybody else in boys basketball right now.
Well, and that's just been the talk all year long. I mean, I saw it on social media today where somebody put out the proclamation that Pecatonica might be one of the best teams that you see in the state. And when you look at Max Prep's ratings statewide, they're rated number 11 across all 4 classes. Now, obviously, there's some big schools that you got to go up against. And like we've seen it in football, we've seen like Lena Winslow be rated 19 in state, right? I think it's more realistic when you take a look at basketball, especially when you got a team like Pecatonica that's got 4 or 5 guys that can play above the rim, and we talked about that with Coach Heisler just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'll listen to that a little bit more in basketball over football.
Yeah.
Football, they throw them out, and I think the difference I have in football is it's a contact sport.
Yep.
And it's a physical sport. And I'm sorry, your 1A football is different than your 3A, 4A football. Your 1A NUIC is different than playing Byron and Montini in a regional in 3A. And that's just how I see it. And that's great, of that. But in basketball, I would say it's not a physicality sport. It's a athletic sport, and they line up 1 through 7, 1 through 8 with anybody in around the area, whether it be 1, 2, 3A. They've matched up against anybody.
Yeah, they just beat Harlem, which is Harlem's 4A, right?
Yeah, they're 3A, 3A, 4A, right? And that's what I mean. Like, basketball is a different animal when it comes to when you have those projections. I just think football is a different thing to where we've seen it. Like,
you can do it. It's more realistic.
Yes, it's very real. It's more realistic in basketball than it is football, and we've had this discussion with it. It's just different when you get to 3A, 4A, big boy football rather than what you see around here. In that, not taking anything away from it because you got to beat everybody, and we've had the success we have. I just think, not that I might mean anything, but it's just like you can watch it and you can see that when I go to a playoff game and watch Byron Montini, that's a different level of football, right? Like,
oh yeah,
I'm just telling you, if you don't,
it is.
Turn on the tape and tell me differently, and I'll listen to you. But basketball wise, I think we got some of the best basketball around here, and you see that with on the boys and girls side with, and it's proof of that because in basketball you can schedule those games, right? It's not a projection.
Right.
You can look at the area teams matching up against other area teams. We've watched Pecatonica do it, right? We watched Peck play Camp Point a couple weeks ago. Big physical Camp Point team, got beat up a little bit. We watched them though play a Freeport team and beat them down at the Dixon tournament. We watched Galena, who's been up and down, witness them beat Freeport, who's a good team and one of the good teams
after getting destroyed by him earlier in the year.
Yes, and it's like you can actually take that projection and play it out in basketball. You can't, and that's why I guess also I don't take it for as much literal. Because you can't play it. You can say all you want about this team would play with Byron or this team would do this. It's like, crazy people with college football would play with this NFL team, and it's just like it's unrealistic. So I don't waste a lot of time with it. But in basketball, you can schedule. You watched Scales Mound do it for multiple years when they were in their prime, and the boys, they were playing anybody and everybody, kind of like how Peck is now.
Yeah.
And you can prove it. You can prove it by playing it out. And that's it's going to be a cool next month and a half. Girls get started early. A lot of games here in the next week going to play out, and boys will be the week after that.
I tell you what, I've been to more basketball games in the last 3-4 weeks than I have since my senior year of high school.
It's that NUIC All Access. I'm gonna have to watch more baseball and softball games than I ever wanted to.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get out.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go get pictures because you're doing it on the basketball end with, yesterday for sure. You were down over in Peck, and we were camped up in Peoria for a game yesterday for the Orangeville team, but. Come spring, I'll have to take some action shots of some baseball and softball that may cut into some golf time. But I will be willing to do it.
Well, that's what we want to do, right? I mean,
yep.
That's what I love about the NUIC. There's a lot of pride, and like you said, you got a lot of towns and a lot of teams that will cheer each other on, especially when you either play outside of the conference and or you get into those moments where you're no longer in the playoff picture and you start to root for that, and that's
I think
it's a great thing about our conference. I love it.
Yeah, I think if you don't root for it, there's something wrong with you. I think whenever you see an NUIC team, no matter what it is, play against someone else, you want the NUIC team to come successful because you want to prove it's like a factor of you want to show what your conference is made of, and the girls or boys in your conference are made of,
yep.
And it kind of makes you feel a little bit better. Win or lose when you play those teams, because it's like, hey, we got some of the best athletes, I think, in the area. And the only way to do it, and we joke about it on the last thing. We joke about it because it's like you have to play at a basketball big town or something like that to do it. And that's what's kind of cool watching this is these smaller schools. You watch the Orangevilles, the Peck, Scales Mountain, like I said, has done it. Galena continually do it. They play the larger schools in the basketball setting where you can, and a lot of schools do it in baseball, softball yourself. And I know Lon at Orangeville does it. Let's see what we got, and it's a cool feeling when you come out victorious because it's like you're no different than us, and you put five girls or five boys out there in basketball, and let's see who has it better, and it becomes a competitive thing, and that's the cool thing about it, that you can do it in these sports. That's the one downfall sometimes with football. It'd be cool to have an open game or two. I know everybody likes the closed conference, but I always liked it back when we played. We'd have our 6 conference games, then we'd have 3 non-conference,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, you want to see that matchup? Let's make that happen. And I don't know if every coach or AD would like that because the fans would be doing their own schedule for everybody, but that'd be one of the cool things to do. But I know everybody likes the closed conference because it
Makes
allows
scheduling
you
easier.
scheduling easier and playoffs.
Yeah.
It gets the most your most teams in your conference of playoffs. But with the way the conferences are going and people coming and going, we may get to that point to where we can do that 1 or 2 games and get a game that everybody wants to see.
And that's going to be a topic of conversation as we're starting to get into more rumors as to what teams could be joining the conference with the announcement that Dupec's going to be leaving the conference for football. What teams are we going to get to either join for football or are they going to be able to join for all sports? And I mean, I know that's conversation that's being had out with ADs right now.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that.
Yeah, and they got to figure it out. It's kind of a weird thing because they left for just football and
soccer,
but didn't want to leave for
any other sport.
The other sports. So that leaves them still in every other sport rather than taking everything to the Big Northern. Which that is what it is, but now it's like you need a team to come in for football, but then it throws off everything on the basketball and volleyball setup to where it'd be. And yeah, we're all the way north. You almost have to look south or you have to look to the east.
Well, and I know some of the teams that they're looking at are coming a little bit further south, but not too far south.
Well,
they're still within striking distance.
And that's a time for another day.
Yeah.
And
not
probably another guest is we can talk about that because I always get a kick out of parents when they complain, whether it be who their team's playing 11-man or we hear it in 8-man football. I heard it from a parent or two. They're like, well, I just really like 11-man because of the travel. And I look at that, I hear that parent and then I'm like, well, hell, you're driving to Morrison, you're driving to Galena, you're driving to Fulton. And I said, you're complaining about driving to AFC or somewhere like travel is going to be a part of it. Unfortunately, in football, it's going to be a part of it because of the amount of teams that match up in the conference.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just part of it. That's why it's nice to play on a Friday or a Saturday for travel. But we'll see who that team is. They're going to have to get on it quick because they got to let their conference know that they're leaving. And we'll see how that all works out.
Yep. Definitely excited to see how that plans out. A lot of big games once again as we head into the week of January 20th here. And a lot of games that are really going to set the picture for not just the conference race, but we're talking a lot about regional seeding. Who's going to get the number 1 through 4 seeds that get those first round buys. And then, of course, moving into when the playoffs begin here, which is coming up very quickly. I believe the week of February 17th, that all starts. So lots of big games out there. Get out, root for your teams, and as always, root for the NUIC.